Call this committee meeting to order, the fire and water.
Fire and Water Committee. Are we waiting on Annie? Did she come?
Yes, she's coming.
Okay. Miss Williams is the reason that we were asked to, because she had to come from Farmville. So if you want to, we can start on something else real quick.
Yeah, sure.
And waiting for Annie. That cool?
Comes.
This is really not a big agenda item. I'm not looking for an answer, but I do think this has been distributed to the, you can follow along to it.
Okay.
There's a Public Works. I'm not sure what his proper title is. I think he's a major, Negri,
He's the lieutenant colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel, excuse me, that works at Fort Pickett, and he has been Johnny on the spot since the mayor and I and Mr. Wilkinson met with the Adjutant General, okay? Here's where we're at on this. There have been some different proposals thrown around. But the first thing that they've made clear is the 400,000 gallons of capacity at the wastewater plant that we had requested based on their planning figures, I guess, I'm not sure what their methodology is, but by their planning estimates, they would be able to release. They don't expect more than about 1.1 of actual usage even at their peaks, okay? And remember, they reserve 1.5 million, so they could turn loose some. So that's a definitive, that's good. Second thing is, they're all agreeable about these tap fees. They don't like them, we don't like them. I think that would be on the table and certainly agreeable to both parties. The last item that was brought to us was, and if you look at the top of that spreadsheet, you can see that their water and sewer usage is uneven. Some months dramatically uneven, okay? For example, if you look at January, on the top, you'll see that they were billed for 7.9 million gallons of sewer, but only 2.3 million gallons of water. Okay. In the
October, they used a whole bunch of water, but they didn't get charged in the sewers.
Yeah, and then there's other months, you know, like October, it's different. And these have just come directly off of our readings at the wastewater plant and at the pump stations that we have. Basically, so you know how we bill Pickett for sewer. We got a meter at the treatment plant, and says that's 10 million gallons, whatever, okay? And we've got 2 pump stations that come from town, and then we have a scattering of meters for the local reuse authority, the sawmill, places like that that don't go through those pump stations. And we add all that together and subtract it from that 10 million gallons that went into the plant, and they get a bill for a difference. It's not a real method. It's not a terribly scientific process. It's pretty much, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know how the town did it before, because we've only installed those meters at those pump stations just within the past 5 years. Before that, I guess they were just using the total meter.
Before that, they were using whatever the town used, and they were just saying, well, that's how much sewer.
We think it is.
And
Yeah,
so
there was no methodology.
I used to go, this is crazy.
Because the town assumes, if you use 1 million gallons of water, we assume you use 1 million gallons of sewer. We assume that, okay? So if you get a bill for water and sewer, it's for the same gallon. We only measure the meter, but not the sewer. What they're asking is will we consider giving them a 1-for-1 rate? So if they use 2.3 million gallons of water in January, they want to pay 2.3 million gallons for sewer, okay? Well, I don't think it's an unreasonable request, but in order to make that work, because we're then accepting the I&I cost, okay? Which is a fixed cost at the plant, so we're not assuming more cost there, but the responsibility for elimination of I&I and cost and all those kind of things then come back to the town. It will work if you look down the bill, about midway through the page where it says difference out-of-town rates. And they voluntarily brought up, would we be able to get the same rates that anybody else would have? And because they're out of town, those that 50% addition that everybody gets charged on utilities, it would be a net to the town of $209,000. If we leave it like it is, their per 1,000 gallon rate is $3.87. I said that correct? $3.87. This would increase it dramatically, but it would reduce their consumption dramatically. But the net effect to the town would be in the black of $209,676 based on their usage. They also asked for what it would be for an in-town rate. And if we use the in-town rates and their consumption, but reducing the overall gallons they use, but use a higher rate, but not as high as out of town, it would be a net to the town of $56,458.78. Okay. When we were talking, we had done this calculation sometime before, and I think when we were talking about it last time, it was water and sewer included. Okay. We're just talking about sewer now, only sewer. They still want to be bulk rate customers for the water, but they're considering the sewer side. And it was literally almost a $100,000 loss to the town, okay, the last time we looked at it, at water and sewer together. But this is just sewer. One of the things that I do think would be fair, and they've come to me, and Lieutenant Colonel Negri did mention that they have several projects that they'd like to work on, specifically at the airfield. And one of the problems we have at the airfield is we don't have enough pressure out there. Kind of out by itself. Joe Allman just built a significant warehouse and he had to sprinkle the warehouse. Joe actually had to put a booster tank out there at quite a bit of money. They also have a fire station and several other capital projects that they mentioned that they'd like to work on out there. And they're concerned gravely about pressure. And we don't have that good pressure. So what I proposed to them the other day was, in the event we can all agree on these out-of-town rates, that indeed, if they were to pay $200,000 more, we would earmark all, or at least a portion of that, to water and sewer improvements specific to Fort Pickett. Okay? We would retain that money to use as the capital
On a yearly basis?
on a yearly basis. So let's just say they spend $200,000 more a year, but they get the out-of-town rate and they get the one-for-one water and sewer. Okay? We go back and say, all right, out of that $200,000, Andre's got to have, we send $175 in capital improvements at Pickett, agreed upon capital improvements. You know, where do you want us to focus at? One of the other things about the airfield is a majority of the I&I that was found, and I think Tom was involved in that, is out there at the airfield somewhere. So I don't think we can make it necessarily work on the town rates. It's virtually getting to be a wash, and $56,000 is going to take a long time to replace a bunch of pipes out there. But at the 200, even if we took it all, and I'm not opposed to taking it all, that'll give us a war chest to get started on putting some better water lines out there and getting rid of the I&I that's going to the plant. And the sewer study that was conducted does show that a lot of the I&I comes from the airfield area. And we can start there, finish that one, and go to the next one.
Yeah.
If you remember, we got about $16 million worth of water replacement out there that ultimately could be done. Replacing the water system at Pickett, which is primarily 1942 era. And ultimately, I don't think we have the money in hand, nor do I think that there's stomach for a big rate increase. But using that out-of-town rate, if they ultimately are agreeable.
Have they seen this at all?
Yeah, we've emailed it to them.
I've emailed it to them, I haven't heard back. And I know when they came, the number was a little different. Brenda and I had a communication error on how Arbortext was billed. So I sent.
I think the original we gave was like $179,000.
The original one was based on the water rates but Brenda and I worked that out. I'm gonna give them a call tomorrow, because I tried to email them, the Negri and Sandra.
This would give us enough cash that we could, it's the equivalent of
I think the figure they saw was about 180,
on 180, okay.
and, when I.
That was the original number.
Is that 180,000 more than they're
Yes.
paying now?
180 more.
And that's when she requested to see
Out of
it
town.
against the in-town rates. And that's where I found
Yeah,
it.
Sandra Reagan was the one that wanted to look at in-town.
Mhm.
I don't think the in-town gives us.
Who's Sandra Reagan?
She's the property manager? Is that
No,
right?
she's the resource manager. She does all the budget stuff for Fort Pickett.
Very good. She's usually pretty helpful. She's helped us with easements and such things in the past. I think they're pretty keen on this coming to some fruition. They've explained too that there may be an inspector general or somebody that comes down and inspects their books and is a bit disturbed, and Tom's been involved in this for years, about the inequity in the water and sewer consumption. So, we don't have a defined answer. I would be inclined to say if we do it, 400,000 gallon exchange, we waive the tap fees. And in addition, they pay to us the out-of-town rate, and we earmark that $200,000 a year, approximately, and we specifically spend it at Fort Pickett. It's their money, they're paying us, and then they're out of the I&I business and that sort of thing. I think that could work, and then if we want to keep a portion of it out of that 209, maybe make it 150, whatever it is, but it needs to be an appreciable amount, otherwise it's going to take forever for us to put enough money together to build a new water line here or there. Okay? I think we have another meeting ultimately scheduled in the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll be able to wrap it up. I don't know steps and machinations.
But this, whatever we keep, it's going, it's gonna be earmarked.
It needs to be. If not all of it, a good portion of it, the majority of it.
It's gonna be earmarked for
Capital
Pickett.
improvements
Capital
and Pickett.
improvements, yeah, 'cause that's the $16 million.
That's the reason
That'll be looked at.
you've got these oddball numbers, is because those pipes are old and they need some replacement. Just the water itself is estimated at $16 million, and there's plenty of sewer work that could be done out there too. What you guys are doing, things like that, abandonments, all that sort of stuff. I would recommend if it goes through, if not all of it, daggone near all of it, be set aside for engineering and construction and start replacing some pipes and doing some studies, and how do we, if we wanna get rid of I&I at the airfield,
What
do
is
we need that
I&I?
line? Can we just lay a new one?
What is I&I?
Pardon?
What is I&I?
Inflow and infiltration. Very old sewer pipes, prior to probably the 1970s or 80s, were built out of cast iron. They were built out of transite. They were built out of concrete, terracotta, paper, all the above. And I&I is water getting in, inflow.
Basically stormwater that gets into a drain somehow, and then it runs into the sewer, which then goes out
We
to
treat
get
that
treated.
water.
And that's how come you're seeing that 36 million gallons of usage and 50 or 66 million gallons
Okay.
That's
of
what.
what they're
I&I
paying for
is
sewage. And you go,
influent-
how is that possible?
Infiltration.
Because there's all kinds of stormwater getting into it somehow, there's maybe creeks running into somewhere. It could be, it's a number of things.
We try to fix them when we find them, but they're insidious, they're everywhere, there's old connections, there's all kinds of stuff. Old pipes deteriorate, built in the 40s, it should have no more than a 50-year lifespan, so back in the early 90s, these things were done, and they haven't done it. So it's time to start doing some replacement, and I've not really come up with a plan any other way, other than coming here
So
and
what is
earmarking
ba-
money for Pickett.
So what is basically our responsibility out there?
We own the lines. We are responsible for the water and sewer lines out there. Not the laterals necessarily going to the building, but the main lines, they owned by the town. Owned by water and sewer.
When the town took over the water treatment plant and the water plant, they also
Took the lines, yeah.
accepted that, so that's how that all occurred.
I know we're gonna be pressed for time real quick, but I'll give you a brief history. Back in the mid-90s, they decided they were gonna close Fort Pickett.
I understand that. Yeah, I
Remember that.
understand that.
And so, part of that process, National Guard got transferred here and the headquarters and that sort of thing. There was a deal cut between the town and the Guard at that time, or whatever entity, federal government that was actually involved. They gave the town the wastewater plant, all the sewer lines. They gave the town $3 million approximately. And they went in and put synthetic liner on an appreciable amount, if not all of the main sewer lines, okay? When the water system came up, I don't think there was that same sort of level of kindness, okay? You want the plant, you want the capacity, you want the water going over the dam, here it is, you take it. We're not gonna pay anything for the renovations, and here the water line's untouched. And I asked Ken Walton one day, I said, why'd you take the water lines? He said, it was a package deal, Jack. If you wanted the plant, you were getting the line, so that's how we got it. In our, the town borrowed $1 million, and then the federal government, the Guard, gave us $3 million for renovations at the plant at the time. We built that nitrification tower, if you've ever been out there, and did some other improvements, clarifiers and things. Our $1 million has been paid off. We paid that off back in August. So we don't owe any money on the wastewater plant, but we're doing more repairs now and more improvements. Okay. Item number 2. Mr. Golson is here and his sister. If you'd like to discuss what we talked about the last time we were in my office.
Okay, we can.
Okay. There were some options discussed the last time we talked, some of which are, I guess we have multiple options. Multiple options. One of those options is leave the pipe where it is, designed, okay? One of the options would be to move the pipe farther from Annie's house. I think that came up towards the end of the meeting. Can we get it away from her farther? And there was some question about, well, if we do this, Ms. Williams has spent some money on a septic tank, and would she be willing to, or interested in, acquiescing to this discussion in exchange for reimbursing her for the cost of that septic system? Okay? $4,000, is that the correct number? That's a goal?
Yeah.
4,000. So we went out and looked at it, Tom and I looked at the line. I think conceivably it can be moved farther and stay out of the woods, almost like at a V shape. Coming from that back corner of Frankie's property, going back towards her driveway, but more in an angle toward Lester Street, setting a manhole and then having another one line that would tie back in at the edge of the woods, and we could stay out of the woods, okay, make it a little bit farther. I don't know the exact cost, but there's design and extra manholes and all that. I spoke with Mr. Williamson, and he said, man, I'm not really interested in paying for any more of that. So any decision we make will be at the cost of the town, okay? Some of the other things that we discussed is, I believe, I didn't have the survey conducted, but I believe that Ms. Jones's house sits across the property line, okay? And is on a portion of Powell Street. We don't need Powell Street long-term. And I think part of any deal needs to abandon Powell Street back to the adjoining property. 15 feet on each side, it's a 30-foot strip. Annie would get the predominance of it on one side and all of it on the other side, and then Ms. Jones would get 15 feet on that portion that abuts her property via quick claim deed that we do when we abandon the street. Okay? And that portion of the street that would be abandoned would be that portion to the northern terminus of Annie's property. Okay? We also discussed the possibility of putting in a sewer connection while we're going through. That Ms. Williams, if she ever decided to get off her septic tank and come to the town, that she could tie in, and that potentially that $800 tap fee would be waived by the town. Okay? Because of the uncertainty of the cost of moving the line, okay, and changing construction, my recommendation would be, if agreeable, would be abandon the Powell Street right-of-way, provide a sewer connection at no cost, or at Frankie's cost, I guess, when he's going through there, agree that we waive the tap fee, and pay Ms. Williams for $4,000. Okay. I think that would be the cleanest, that would be the way to just resolve it without questions still lingering about cost and effect and engineering and all this kind of stuff. So, I'll leave that to you.
We need to give Jones a connection to if she needed to connect to it.
That is correct. Ms. Jones is not connected to the sewer, and logically, we'll put a tap out there for her.
Right.
I don't think that's an unreasonable request, and do that same time.
And then the next thing though, we need to go out there and look at what we're saying, so we'll know what we're saying, meaning that where we plan to run this line. See, right now, we're saying as far as we can, but we need to define where we're gonna do it at. And then once we define that, everybody agree to it, let's go with it. But right now, we have not defined exactly where it would be.
We can get, and I can, if you look at it 30-foot wide, they're not proposing to put the sewer line in the center. They're proposing it to skew it to the
Right on
west
that
side.
edge, so
It
you're
would be
not
10
taking
feet
down
off that
trees.
edge. So if we can define that edge, other than just the flags, one poor man's way to do it is if you're looking there and you see the flags on either side,
Yeah.
the side that's closest to Lester Street, where your son lives, that side,
Right.
it would be 10 feet off them flags. It wouldn't be up in your yard. It would be more in that parking area that you've got.
10 feet toward Lester Street or 10 feet to her house?
10 feet, it would be 20 feet from that line that goes across the front of her house, close to her house. It would be 20 feet off of that
Okay.
sewer line, and then 10 feet to the other side of the line. 30-foot line.
Now, this easement is for sewer only.
Sewer only.
Water,
Water's easy, because water's pressurized. We can go around over here to get to one nose with water.
That's involved.
You build enough of it, you can get there. The
Right.
problem with the sewer
Why
is,
isn't he?
the issue with sewer is all gravity flow.
Okay,
And so that's the necessity of going in that direction. If we need to give water to somebody,
He doesn't have
Lester
to.
Street, East Street, West,
Part of this.
Northwest, or,
Well,
West
he's
Entrance
the one
Road.
that's involved in it.
Sewer only, I agree.
Yeah, but he has every right to.
And it would eliminate any
He's
public
not the one
ownership,
saying, I'm gonna
public
pay for it, we are,
right.
request.
Now, where will we connect
but I
to the
think-
property
I think
that
we
the
should
sewer
cut
is
that
going to
angle
be coming
and
from?
come down, and then it's not
Where
every
would you
road at all.
connect to that
But
property?
then if we do that.
If
I'll-
I'm looking at Amy, say I took up a driveway, and her house is kind of in front of me,
Yeah,
and that sewer line would be going this way,
yeah,
it would be downstream from her house. You know where the drain field is now?
yeah,
Logically, it would be past her drain field,
right,
and we can get the plan to show where the connection would be.
okay.
But we gotta make sure it'll flow by gravity, otherwise she's gonna end up having to pump it, and we don't want that. We want it all gravity flow.
Exactly. Now, his property, I think you've been over there, you seen where those cars at?
Yeah.
Okay, now his property line is over in that area.
I think the wood line. Pretty
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, right. So how close will that sewer line be to that line?
What's my file? Daggone. Oh. If we look at this thing, let's just say, this is Frankie's property right here.
Right.
Draw it up. Let's say this is Frankie's property,
Okay.
and this is Powell Street that comes through.
Right?
Okay. And her house sits here,
Right,
and she owns all this,
right,
all this down here.
Right.
Okay? Frankie's proposing to come out like that with the sewer line. Okay? 20 feet on that side, 10 feet on that side. Okay?
Okay, now, this is Power Street.
That's correct.
Okay,
And then
now,
her sewer connection would logically be on that downstream side,
right.
and her drain field's over here somewhere.
All right, now, based on Power Street,
Mhm.
we're saying that we're gonna go how far toward Leicester Street?
Not in the center. The center of Powell Street would be 15 feet. The design as shown shows it at 10 feet. The center line of the pipe at 10 feet. So the pipe would be 20 feet from her property line, which is shown by those flags closest to your house. Okay? The orange flags that are closest to your house are the eastern boundary of Powell Street. Let me go out there and look at it. Show-
Yeah, we need to take a look at that. Yeah.
The other option that we were looking at was bringing it from here, so where's the house, okay, yeah. So instead of coming like this, it would come like this,
More of an
completely
angle.
miss the driveway. So, and then you'd have a manhole right there. So her driveway is actually here.
There would be a manhole close to her house then.
But if we do that, then I would propose that we.
All right, now, question.
give
It can't be
$4,000.
done like this.
Oh, it can be done.
Hey, look,
We're gonna have to do a bunch of clearing of trees and big stuff. It'd be cheaper to buy her a drain field. Less expensive. And I don't think we can do both. If we need to put $4,000.
All those trees start basically right about here. I mean, all those trees, and there's a lot of them.
It can be done. I mean, engineering wise, it'll work. But this is a much more expensive option.
You lose privacy when you cut those trees down too,
So what now?
because it'll act as a buffer to the other properties, right?
There's nobody real close right there.
No?
You know,
Okay.
Your neighbors are a good distance up on
Okay.
Western Street.
I was thinking about the trees that are between Williams and,
There's still a lot of, even if we cut a 20-foot swath out of there, it'd still be plenty of trees
okay,
in
all right.
there. It's a wooded lot. for the most part.
right, right. All right, I'll tell you what, everything, I don't see no problem with nothing. We just need to see how far we can get this line away from her. You know, and everybody can agree with this. I understand that at the 10 feet to 20 feet away and all that, but physically, we need to go out and take a look at this. I understand what's on paper, but sometimes when you look at it, it looks different than on paper. Yeah,
There's a rod, if you've ever been out there, at the corner of Frankie's property,
okay,
okay? You know what I'm talking about? It's like an old axle or something like that buried in the ground.
I think I saw that.
Okay. If you go to that pin and go towards her house 10 feet, that would be the location is designed.
Okay.
Because that pin is the corner of Frankie.
Yeah, it's something like a driveway from her property all the way out to the street. Now,
It is kind of humped up right there. Yeah.
yeah, so, are we talking about trying to come down that driveway and straight across?
I'd say pretty close, within a few feet, yeah.
Okay. Well, as long as we can be as far as we can to the left,
Mhm.
I think we can come up with a workable solution, but we need to actually see this though. We gotta see it.
When y'all want to see it? When you want to do it?
You call it.
You want me to do it individually with you guys? You want me to call another meeting? I'd like to get an answer between now and the next council meeting.
I,
Call another meeting?
if you wanna get it to where we're all there, then, yeah, we'd have
We'll call
to do
another
that.
meeting, and I will, as soon as I go back and check my calendar and make sure you guys can all meet, we'll give you a date. And, we'll do it a little bit later in the evening, so we're not pressed for time.
Okay,
We got plenty of time in the evening.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, but look, now, everything is agreed upon, we're just concerned about how far can we get away.
And we can try to get you farther over.
Yeah. That's all.
All right, and, our meeting with council is the 15th, so we're gonna try to do it
Yes,
certainly before
Yes.
that, probably next week sometime.
okay, fine.
If we did move it farther away, like either taking that pie or going through the woods, which I don't really.
But I got a question.
Would you consider accepting less money? Because it's gonna cost us money to do that.
I mean, it's got a point. I mean, if it's $4,000, we can, I think that's a reasonable because it's quantifiable. But if we gotta spend 10 to move over and $4,000, I don't know if that's right.
Well, let's see first before we say anything. Let's take a look at this
That's right.
and then we'll come back to the table. But, I think, Mr. Miller had a question, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I got a question. Now, these people are here. Why can't we have Frankie out there too?
We can.
Yeah.
Get Frankie to come.
I think it's best that we have Frankie out there. So when we decide what we gonna do, there is no hassle.
He's asked me a couple times, do you need me there? And I was like, well, I'll call you if we need you. But
I
if you want
think
the next one,
I think
fine.
he should be at the next one.
Yeah.
So that way, when we make the final agreement, it can't be no he say, she say. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I'll get him there.
Yeah.
I think Ms. Jones had a question about how deep, I think it's gonna be about 5 feet or close to it, 4.
Give me 10 seconds, I'll run back in the office and get the drawings. I can tell you exactly how deep it's gonna be. But it's way deep down there by West Entrance, it's like 11 feet deep. But I'll get the drawings.
If this goes, you can plant a flower on top of it.
Oh, yeah. You can plant a flower on it, but if we ever have a reason to go in there, and hopefully we never go in there, because if we going in there, that means there's a problem. You can plant flowers on it, you can keep it as your yard, whatever you want to do. Just don't plant trees or put sheds and stuff on it. That's all. There are a couple of truths that we know just because of the type of material being used. You really can't put sewer or water in unless it's about 3 feet deep, because the plastic pipe ain't built for that kind of compression if you get any traffic on it, or trucks or backhoes or anything. So the shallowest water line, some of the old ones may be less than that. You know, that picket, they even run out of the ground because they were just in a big hurry. Pretty much, we don't put any sewer line less than 3 feet. But if you look down here, oh, this is the one at West Entrance, okay? And you can see, this is elevation above sea level. That's 415 feet above sea level at the bottom of that manhole. And the top of that manhole is about 424, so about 9 feet deep. Right there. At the manhole across West Entrance, and then it runs at a grade all the way down. And the ones that are gonna be more in front of your house down that line, you see how this is 30 feet? The sewer line being proposed to be tilted on the back side instead of being down the center. Manhole E. manhole F.
Now, I was questioning, that's that corner of his property right there.
Mhm.
Now, I was questioning, we're keeping straight down here, coming in here,
Mhm.
that, I think somewhere up in here,
Mhm.
if he came over just a little bit, I think it's a couple of trees in here. It's a couple of trees
We
in
can
here.
slide it over some if we need
Yeah.
to. Couple
Okay.
feet or something like that. You can see the tree line, they show it right there.
Mhm.
That was kind of the angle that Tom and I looked at.
Right.
They're doing it like that. Okay. But it would push a manhole closer to our house. Just so you know.
Mhm.
And if the sewer line backs up, where does it back up at? At the top of the manhole. So, yeah, I know. So there's a manhole here and there's another one way down here.
Right.
If we ran it along that tree line, like you and I talked, it would be a manhole much closer to our house.
Mhm.
Okay?
I got it. But even at this manhole, if it backed up,
That's
trust me, everybody within about 200 or 300 feet or yards, you can smell it. So,
At least.
that's right. That's right. So
Yeah.
Who's gonna maintain those?
We
the
do.
town,
The town, we clean
the
it.
town.
And if one of them, you see water coming out of it, call us and we get a sewer jetter. We got a big power washer we put through there. It's usually grease. 9 times out of 10, if there's a plug or a blockage in the line, it's because you got too much grease in the line.
Yeah, it's grease.
All right.
You're right.
So the only thing, I'm leaving town next Wednesday, so it's gonna have to either be
Monday, Tuesday.
Friday or Monday or Tuesday.
We may be a little tight on Friday, but Monday or Tuesday?
We can call it Monday. I mean, everybody's here, right?
I'm good Monday.
Monday?
Monday during the day, I've got
Other than that, we
I've got a
got
committee meeting.
Rotary
Oh,
Monday.
you got Rotaries that night.
Well, I've got a committee meeting that night at,
It could be Monday in the daytime now if you want it.
That's cool. Can you do a day?
Because the only thing we looking at is the line.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We'll do it during the day?
I'm good.
I'll check.
We'll call it for Monday and I'll tell Frankie to be here.
All right.
Let me know the time.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Anything else?
Gentlemen?
Pretty good other comments? Adjourn the meeting at 6:02.
602.
Thank you.
You can copy that. Thank you, man.
Need your copy back?
No. You keep it. Hang on to it. And I'll give you one more. I'll explain this to you later. It's confusing. But this has to do with our request of Fort Pickett to release some sewer capacity. If we get a chance, and if those guys over there at Pickett have any other questions, if you hear from anything about what we do, let us know. We seem to have a good line of
Well, I
communication
just,
with them.
I mean, if you've already sent to them and you haven't heard from them,
They've only had a couple of days.
that's maybe a good sign, but it also means that that they're sending it out for other people to look at.
I'm
Now,
gonna call her tomorrow. Sometimes I'm afraid our emails get hung up and might be in spam, cause
Right.
I did a red receipt for
right.
the other guy and I didn't get that yet either.
I've
But
got a
also, if you're
committee
talking
meeting
about